Hello and welcome to Fireside Chats with Veterans. My name is Don Randolph, and I am here today with Mr. Marvin Kell from McMinnville, who is in the United States Navy. Mr. Kell, thank you for coming and sharing your story with us today.
Glad to be here.
I'd like to just kind of start with life before you were in the Navy, and you were in during World War II.
World War II. I was graduated from high school, and I went in the CC camps for a while, and then later on I went to work for General Shoe in Tullahoma, Tennessee, and I was drafted into the Army while I was working there.
Okay. Well, where did you go? Was it a shock when you got drafted, or did you kind of know it was a possibility? Or
we went to Camp Forest in Tullahoma to be examined, and there was 7 of us from McMinnville that went in the Navy, and we went home for a week, and then we went to Nashville to be inducted into the Navy.
Okay, and where did you went to boot camp from Nashville then?
Well,
where was that at?
One of the amusing things, I guess, about that was that for some reason or other, they called me in and said, I want you to take these men to Bainbridge, Maryland. And of course, I'd never been anywhere to mount anything, and they gave me the orders and the meal tickets. We got on the train. They said there'd be a man in Cincinnati to assist you to get on another train. But come meal time, they asked for a meal ticket, and I was the only one to have a ticket. So they said, we'll work this out later. So we went on and went to Bainbridge, Maryland for boot camp.
Okay. And when you finished the boot camp, did you have technical training after that? Or what was your job?
I was selected for a torpedo school in Norfolk, Virginia, down on Hampton Boulevard.
Okay. I've been there.
And from there, I went to the submarine base at New London, Connecticut. And to escape the submarine, you had to have a Munson log. And my teeth didn't match up real well, so I flunked that test. So they sent me to Pier 92, New York, which was a distribution center.
Okay.
And from there, I went to the shipyard in Tampa, Florida. I was supposed to go aboard the USS Mazama, but they run into some difficulties in building the ship, so they sent me to Miami, Florida, to sub chaser school there, where I went to school there.
Okay.
And then from there, they sent me to South Carolina, Charleston, where they built the USS Jordan, the DE-204, which me and a group of men, those were the first ones that we put it in commission there in Charleston.
Okay. So that was your ship. You were assigned to that?
I served aboard that for 20 months.
Okay. So all of that moving around all took place in a pretty short, relatively short period of time?
Well, I remember eating a Christmas dinner in Charleston, and so it was right after that when I went aboard. It was probably the first part of 44, probably January of 44.
Okay. So you set sail at the or early that year in 44.
Yeah.
And what was life like aboard?
Well, actually, when you was at sea, you was on watch 4 hours and off 8. On 4 and off 8.
Okay.
So he was on watch 8 hours out of 24. And I was on the first watch, so I always got to 12 to 4 at night and daytime. Okay.
Well, what were some of the places you visited, or some of the, did you ever get engaged?
Well, we done convoy duty mostly.
Okay.
And we escorted, just before D-Day, we escorted probably the biggest convoy that had ever been across the ocean. And part of them went to Europe, and part of them went to Africa, part of them went into the Mediterranean.
Okay. And did you help with the, well, it's all logistics. We're moving a lot of men and material in anticipation of...
we didn't do anything about, we didn't carry anybody except our crew.
You just provided security?
Transports carried all, but we carried we had 3 torpedoes, and we never fired a one during the war.
Okay.
But
in the early part of World War II, those German U-boats were a big problem for those convoys.
Well, the war in the Atlantic is a war that very few people know about, but we were actually at war a year before war was declared. They were sinking our ships, and President Roosevelt told them to, if they caught any foreign country in our waters, fire them. That's even before the war was declared.
Yeah, and the whole Lend-Lease program where we were assisting England even before we actually entered World War II.
They were actually sinking a huge amount of our shipping, the Germans did. And they based their defense on the submarine warfare because they wanted to keep us out of supply. And they knew we eventually would be engaged in the war. So Germany had the greatest submarine force that ever been up to that time. They operated in packs. It might be as many as 30 submarines in the Atlantic at one time. And so...
did you ever, you were hunting for those submarines, did you ever, even at a distance,
we made a run or two on one, but as far as I know, we never sunk any. But,
okay. But you did encounter them?
Anyway, they was out there, and we done experimental work for the Navy, and part of the time, and we developed a system to counteract the German submarines. They come out with a acoustic torpedo, and we had some scientists from MIT come aboard, and they developed what's called a foxing gear, and it was just a simple thing. It was 2 iron bars that you drug out behind the ship, and it made more vibration than the propellers did, so this acoustic torpedo went through the foxing gear instead of your
ship, your submarine. So that's some pretty effective countermeasures then.
Right.
Okay. So what were the circumstances surrounding whenever you left the military?
Before I went in?
No, but as you were about to come out.
Did
you anticipate that? Was it a surprise?
I was transferred off the ship to Newport, Rhode Island, to the torpedo school there, and of course I had no intention of re-enlisting, but I think they had some ideas maybe I would. So, but anyway, you had points to get out on. We went down and checked the board every day to see how many points we had. So I was discharged on November the 9th, 1945.
When you had enough points, and did the time spent out on the ship, you got more points that way?
Well, I don't really know, but anyway, that's when I got out.
Okay. So did you make your way, did you live in McMinnville at the time, or how did you make your way home?
Oh, I rode a train. That's about the main, there was bus service, but mostly you rode the train.
Okay. And what did you do in the weeks, months, and time when you first got back from your time in the service?
Well, I didn't do a whole lot of anything much, but I did do some work. Worked for a man that done carpenter work and stuff like that. I done that for a while, and then I went back to work to General Shield or Genesco with the company I worked for before I went in.
Okay.
So that's who I retired from, Genesco and McMinnville.
Okay. So you came back to McMinnville and you sort of picked up where you left off?
Well, yes.
Okay. Well, I want to say thank you for your service, and thank you for coming here today.
Well,
and we appreciate you very much.
Glad to did.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Kell. And thank you for watching. This has been Fireside Chats with Veterans. Hello and welcome back to Fireside Chats with our veterans. My name is Don Randolph, and joining me is Mr. Charles Smith, who is a veteran of the U.S. Navy and was in the service during World War II. Mr. Smith, thank you very much for your service. Thank you for coming here and sharing your story with us today. I want to start with your life before the Navy, before your time in the service, and the circumstances that led you to be in the service.
Well, I finished high school in 1942 in McMinnville Central.
Okay.
Well, three other fellows and I was looking for a job, and we was sent to Baltimore, Maryland. We spent about 10 months up there, and I got a call, a draft call for the Army. Well, I returned home and was sent to Fort Overthrow, Georgia, and got over there, and there's about 500 of us from Warren and surrounding counties. And they asked for 71 people between 18 and 21 to volunteer for the Navy. So
and you raised your hand?
I volunteered, and they also asked for 21 for the Marine Corps. Then the Army got the rest of them.
Okay.
Well, I was sent to Bainbridge, Maryland for basic boot training.
Okay.
And after that, we got a 7-day leave and got back up there, and we had orders to go to Norfolk, Virginia.
That's where you did your training in Norfolk?
No,
your
training
technical
comes up
training.
next. We were assigned down there to, the Navy had just formed a few beach battalions, which it never had before. This was just wartime stuff. 450 people to the battalion.
Okay.
And we were sent to Fort Pierce, Florida for 16 weeks training.
Okay.
And this was trained for like the Army or the Marine Corps. And we were put over on this little island. There wasn't a building over there, but we lived over there in tents for 16 weeks and took training. And after that, I was in the 8th, and there was 10 formed during the war, 10 battalion. And we was never assigned to a ship. We was strictly a land part of the Navy.
Okay.
And we was sent to North Africa for a few weeks, and then we went down to Salerno, Italy, and relieved a beach battalion that was older than us.
Okay.
They'd been there during the invasion, and but the beach wasn't secured. And they sent them to a rest camp, and we took their place there.
Okay.
And we stayed there a few months till it was secured. Then we were sent over to Naples, Italy for a few more weeks training. And then we made the last invasion of France. Not the big day, not D-Day. That was June 6th, I believe, 44. And ours was August the 15th, southern France, the Riviera. Yeah. So we made that invasion. We had to be ashore in the first 3 waves. The waves were 8 minutes apart. And so we went in on this, what they call a red beach, a real nice beach, about like Daytona Beach, but it had a wall built up about a 3 foot thick, about 10 foot high, 8 or 10 foot high, then barbed wire across the wall. And we didn't get in, and so we was called back and sent down a mile or so to another beach where they was moving in all right. We got in in there, and then we went by land. About 2 days later, we got back up to where we was originally to go in.
So the German resistance at that first beach was such that you couldn't get through it.
It was a very hot beach, and it was the most, the best beach they could land on. It was this ideal place, but it was fortified real strong. And so when we got in there, combat engineers had blown up this wall, and then we stayed there 31 days, and we got it secured. And that was the last invasion made in Europe. And so they sent us to the Pacific and disassembled our beach battalion and we were reassigned out there
Okay.
because the Marine Corps did all that beach landing out there. And but anyway, the last 10 months I was in the Navy, I spent in the Mariana Islands, Guam, Saipan, and Tinian. But I was put on the, Guam was located here, and then 80 miles from there was Saipan and Tinian, just a little bay between Saipan and Tinian. And I stayed there for 10 months. But one thing I did not know while I was there, the atomic bomb was shipped from Seattle out to Tinian.
Tinian.
That's the smallest island. And it was assembled, come out on the ship of the cruiser Indianapolis. And it was unloaded there and assembled on the plane at Tinian. And of course it was left from there to bomb Japan.
Right.
In fact, there was two of them.
Yep.
And so that ended the war, you know.
You were in both theaters then. You were
Yes,
in the war
yeah.
in Europe and also
In
the
the
war in the Pacific.
Yes.
So you got
But
it.
never assigned a ship in the Navy.
Wow.
But I just worked in a boat repair unit in the last few months I was in the Navy.
Okay.
And but we went over and back on each one of them, the Pacific and the Atlantic.
Wow.
So it come time to get out. I got out in March of '46.
Okay. Had you been watching your points accumulate as
Oh
well?
yeah, yeah. They accumulated
Everybody
pretty
did.
slow. Yeah, I got out. I believe it was March of '46. I know it was '46.
Okay. So
March,
did you ride
April.
like a transport ship back?
Pardon?
Did you ride a transport ship back to the mainland U.S.?
Yeah, come back to San Diego. I mean to San Francisco. And then I asked them let me be discharged in California. And I had some people in Los Angeles, some family. And I wanted to visit them while I was out that way, you know. Then I come on a train to Knoxville,
Okay.
bus then into McMillan.
Okay. Whenever you were in Europe, did you actually see combat while you were there? Or
Yes.
In,
We made the initial landing at southern France, Saint Raphael.
St. Raphael. Did you, well, what was some of your, if you would share some of the experiences you had while you were in south of France, and sort of how far inland did you push, and what were some of the towns you visited?
We did not go inland.
You
We
didn't go
stayed on
inland at
the
all?
beach.
Okay, the whole time.
Operated the beach between the Navy and the Army.
Okay, so you
we-
made that beach safe for
Yeah,
everyone
yeah,
else.
Well, a lot of these boats would come in, they'd hang up on the land, you know, they'd come in on a wave and the wave would go out. We had a dozer there to push them off with, you know. We had
Okay.
radio communication.
Okay.
We had medical people there. We just operated the place
Okay.
just like running a plant or something, you know, for 31 days.
Okay, and the
So-
same kind of thing when out in the Pacific, whenever a ship would come in too far or get beached.
Yeah,
you would
well,
m-
no, it was altogether different in the Pacific. I was on land, reassigned to a boat repair unit.
Okay.
That when they needed repairing, we had facilities there to repair them with.
Okay. So when you got after you got back to the mainland U.S. and you made your way back to Knoxville, what was life like when you got back home?
Well, one little thing I'd say before that when that atomic bomb was sent out to Tinian, well, I didn't, of course, we didn't know nothing about that. And I saw a movie that showed it after I got home, you know. And
So that was the first you had heard of it, and you had just
we
been
knew
there.
we knew atomic bomb, but we didn't know it was shipped right across the bay from where I was.
Wow.
I mean, you could maybe 200 yards over that strip of water there, you know.
That must have been a surprise.
Yeah,
I was there. I was just
it
there.
was. And then you say after I got back home, Well, I went to school down to MTSU, Murfreesboro. I went down there for right on through the summer and graduated in 3 years. But I was anxious to get into something, you know, and went to work for a bank for a couple of years. And then I went with McMinnville Concrete Products. It was new at that time, been started about 6 months, I guess. I went with them, and in fact, wound up with this little plant over here in Sparta. It was over at the end of the $1 Million Mile at that time, you know. And then they extended the highway up the mountain, and we come over and built a plant down here across the railroad tracks out there. And we had that little plant, and now the company I was working for, and had a little plant over in Smithville and one in Woodbury, and a sand operation over in Grundy County, at Hillsboro. And I stayed with them for 38 years.
Until you retired.
Yeah.
Wow.
In fact, I was went in and out of Sparta probably once a week. Or knew Bill Johnson over at the bank here, you know.
Yes.
George Elrod, two very well, two nice people.
Well, I want to thank you once again for sharing your story with us.
Well,
and thank you for
welcome.
your service.
In fact, I remember, well, your name is
Randolph.
Randolph. A Randolph lady worked over at the First National Bank here. But that's been a few, I left here in '90.
Okay.
And, well, you're welcome.
Well, thank you very much. And if you're like me, I'm never leaving this part of the country if I have anything to say about it. And I want to thank you for watching our Fireside Chats with our veterans. My name is Don Randolph. I want to thank Ben Lomond Television and the Rotary Club of McMinnville and Sparta. Thank you.